Okay, hello everybody. My name is Peter, and today we're going to be doing some drawing on toned paper because it's the first pad of paper that I grabbed off a pile of stuff on my floor. We're going to be using some of these Cretacolor colored pencils and maybe this little white Faber Castell pencil I threw in here at the end for a few little highlights. But first, we have some fan mail right here. This one is from Emily Johnson. Let's zoom in. Hope you're all doing well today. Yes? Is that a yes? I didn't hear anyone say they were doing bad. Wait, I can use my bone folder to open it, right? That's kind of like a letter opener. Perfect. Let's see what Emily Johnson has to say. Oh, this is adorable. Dear Peter, found your channel on YouTube last summer and managed to get through almost every video of yours in under a week. At that point in time, I was in a major art block, which I'm still trying to recover from. And your videos inspired me to create something that didn't have to look real. I spent more time exploring ideas than I had in months, and I managed to finish 2 sketchbooks in under 3 months. They were very small. I'd like to thank you for improving my art, how I think, and expanding my own horizons on how I should continue studying art. As a graduating high school senior, it's scary to think, as an artist, that I have to face the real world next year. Thank you for making it seem not so hard. Good luck with your college classes, and I can't wait for the next video. Sincerely, Emily Johnson, or at Spoomb on Insta, TikTok, and YouTube. Hey, thanks for the really nice letter, Emily. Appreciate that. And yeah, congrats. They say, oh yeah, you just graduated from high school. And yeah, I'm glad I could help you out a little bit. This is a wonderful little letter. The cutest little piece of paper. Little decorations. And I can see some of your art here that looks so cool. I wish you all the best. Yeah, I'm glad I could give you some encouragement. Just keep it up, you know. Art is one of those things where it's fun to think about, but when you start overthinking it, which I am a chronic overthinker, it happens to me too. Sometimes I think the overthinking is what artist block really is. So thank you again for that letter. Right, here we have something I think is from my friend Scott Teplin, which I've mentioned a few times on this channel. He sent me a thing here. Get out. Stupid Horse Fireworks Catalog. Stupid Horse brand Fireworks Catalog. Oh, I think this is a like an exhibition that maybe it's up right now. Go look, see his website here, teplin.com. I've been looking on his Instagram lately. He's been making so many of these like fireworks. Like, I don't know if they're like paper mache or something. They're like cool fireworks inspired sculptures, but then he decorates them with his unique style of painting. I guess these are still watercolor paints. Look how fun these are. But I think it's also inspired by if you go into any fireworks store, for me here in North Carolina, we usually have to go down across the border into South Carolina, and usually right as you cross the border into South Carolina, there's usually a huge fireworks store, and they always have all these crazy designs. So this is awesome. Go check it. At least go follow Scott on Instagram, and I think his show is in New York. Home record, June 7th through July 5th, so you still got some time. Solo show by Scott Teplin, it says. Brooklyn, 434 39th Street, Brooklyn. Thank you for sending this, Scott. I'm definitely going to take some time to look through it more carefully. I'm not recording a video. There's so much stuff here. Definitely a great addition to my collection of cool things by cool artists. Right? Mail call is over, and it's time to get to drawing. So let's do that. All right, everyone, make sure you like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I've got about 1,000 other videos on this channel you can watch, and there's 1,000 more coming. As usual, just doing an aimless doodle here. Just calling it a doodle. If you don't know my drawing theory, my technique is to just build off of all of the previous lines I've drawn without planning it out. Just kind of going with the flow. But on the theme of fireworks, that made me think of a time I went to visit my cousin in Chicago for 4th of July. I don't know, we were maybe 14 or 15. My cousin's pretty close to my age. And out in the alley behind his house in Chicago was the L, which is like the elevated train line there in Chicago. And some of his neighbors were setting off fireworks. You know, some of them were little fireworks, some of them were slightly bigger, and then some of them were like those big mortars. You know, I'm talking about the ones that you have to like, they have like a little square base, and then it's just a tube, and then you just slide it, and it goes boom, and then it explodes in a huge fireworky explosion, right? But I think what we were doing was illegal in a couple ways. I mean, it's 4th of July. Everything gets a little crazy, especially in Chicago. First of all, maybe you're just not supposed to be setting off fireworks, but doubly right next to the L. So every time the train came by, we had to stop, because I feel like it's one of those things like pointing a laser pointer at an airplane or something. You're just not supposed to mess with like trains like that, like set off fireworks near trains. So we just had to be careful. But the scariest part is a couple times those mortar tubes somehow fell over right before they went off, and the firework went shooting, skittering off across the ground, and you just had to hope it didn't fall over pointing straight at you. And then I don't know if it was the same weekend, but me and my cousin went off walking off through the neighborhood, because one of his neighbors was like paying him to water some of his trees. Like, he had a couple of saplings that he was trying to grow. So my cousin had to go water them every day or something. And we stopped, and there were like some magazines in a box that someone was throwing out behind their house. And we stopped, and we were like bending over and like flipping through the magazines. And then like a cop car was driving by the alley we were in, and then it stopped, slowed down, backed up, and then it came down the alley, and the cop car pulled up to us. He's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing over here?" We're like, "We're just going to water our neighbor's tree, like we're paid to do." He's like, You weren't about to light fire to those magazines or anything, were you?" We're like, "No, we were just looking at them." He's like, "All right, just making sure you guys weren't walking around with a bunch of fireworks in your pockets, about to light stuff on fire." We're like, "No, we're good boys. We're just looking. We just saw some cool magazines. We're just looking at them." He's like, "All right." Then the cop drove away. But then the scary thing was, we actually did have our pockets stuffed with fireworks, just like those little red firecrackers. I think there's some of those in that book we just looked at by Steplin's, a similar kind of thing. So we had a very straight face. But I don't think we would have set a random box of magazines on fire. We were a little bit ornery and rapscallious, but we didn't get into trouble like that, setting random things on fire. We were mostly just like annoying to our siblings and parents, that kind of thing. We never got into any serious trouble. We were good kids. Later on, probably like 10 years later, when I actually ended up moving to Chicago, I lived there for a couple of years. I lived in this neighborhood called Pilsen, which I think was called that because it's originally a neighborhood where a bunch of Czech immigrants lived, because I think Pilsen was a city in Czechoslovakia. But by the time I moved there, it was mostly a Mexican neighborhood. And they on 4th of July, they went nuts. Like, it was amazing, the kind of partying and festivities they got up to. Like, whole streets would be shut down, and not like in any legit sort of way. Like, they would just tons of people out in the streets. Like, they would pull out their grills and barbecues. They would just set up all their chairs right in the middle of the street, and they would be setting off so many fireworks. Like as soon as it got dark, all this, you could just be walking down the road, like the main strip kind of that neighborhood, and just there would just be like clouds of smoke just like rolling down the street from all the fireworks being set off, and you just hear just constant pops, bangs, and booms. But it was just kind of it was just a fun atmosphere, just like people having fun everywhere. Yeah, I do miss living in that neighborhood of Chicago. It's like, I tell people sometimes, it's like this, the benefits of living in a city, in the sense that I didn't have to own a car. I didn't own a car or anything. I just took mass transit everywhere, or rode my bike, or walked. But also the benefits of having like a small town feel. Like I would go to the little grocery store the grocery store was like 100 feet away from my house, and the coffee shop was like 200 feet away. And I would see the same people over and over again, just walking down the street, and I'd smile at them and wave. I was just making friends with people that lived within like 1 or 2 blocks of me. And I would have like I would grill out with my neighbors, the people that lived in the same building as me, down the little patio behind our building. It was a cool community feeling. I do miss that. I mean, I get a little bit of that here, but everyone is just like, here in Greensboro where I live, everyone lives in like single family homes. Everyone's so much more spread out. Everyone's doing their own thing. Get together just sometimes, but we're not forced to see each other all the time just by the sheer proximity, right? We're not all just walking down the same road, going to the same things all the time. I don't know, there's something about that I miss. Plus I could never get bored there. I mean, you know what they say, only boring people get bored or something in there. I think there is some truth to that, but it was just cool that there was always some fresh source of interest or inspiration. If it was every single weekend, especially during the summer, there was some block party in some nearby neighborhood with like where the streets would get shut down, and they would put up a big stage, and there would be a bunch of vendors with amazing food and live music and dancing. Or I could always go to my favorite museum, the Art Institute of Chicago, or any of the amazing things downtown. One of my favorite buildings downtown was called the Fine Arts Building. And at least when I lived there, it was, I think, one of the only buildings left in the world with I don't know what you call it, like a manually operated elevator where you'd get in and it would have like one of those sliding grates, like a gate first of all, there's a guy standing in the elevator always that would operate the elevator for you. He would ask what floor you wanted to go in, and he would push the button, or maybe there might have even been a lever, but he would like operate the gate and everything of the elevator. Like, this thing was so old, but it still worked. Like, it was well oiled and maintained. And up on like the 2nd or 3rd or 4th floor, there was this amazing bookstore. I hope it's still there because I want to go back and visit it. Amazing bookstore, and it had like, it was one of those bookstores with used books, and it even had a section with like all these like sheet music. And it was one of those bookstores where just the bookshelves were super tall. Like, you couldn't even reach some of them. I don't know if there were ladders or not. It was just kind of like oppressive and dusty and cozy, and you could just stay in there for hours just flipping through stuff. And it had its own cat named Hodges that was always in there, sometimes curled up all warm and cozy on the windowsill. And sometimes I would explore other parts of the building, and I would find like some little artist gallery, or like someone's studio where they like worked on making or repairing violins, or just, it seemed like a fun little tucked away spot in the city, even though it was like right downtown, right? It was just a cool place. But yeah, there was always a fun new exhibition somewhere. Like one time in the nearby building, across from the Art Institute of Chicago, kind of across the corner, called the Chicago Cultural Arts Center, I think. The Chicago Cultural Center, which had this amazing, beautiful, I think you'd call it a stained glass dome, 2 stained glass domes, which were just beautiful architecturally, just to walk into and look up, right? One time I went to this exhibit there. Have you heard of this artist called Theo Jansen, who makes these big, weird walking sculptures out of these like plastic tubes. Usually when he shows them, they're like, they look like big, weird alien insects, and they're wider than they are long. And sometimes he puts them out on the beach, and they have big, weird sails that push them along. Look him up, Theo Jansen. But there was an exhibition there that I went to, and I just love, so it just resonates with my kind of style of drawing, with like dense line work. But these were like my crazy doodles, except that they were functional. They could walk. They were engineered. And there was a version, of course, most of the art was stuff for just looking at, right? No touching. But they had one that was like a version of his sculptures pretty much a version of a shopping cart with his crazy little legs, and you could push it around and watch all the little legs move. It was like a shopping cart with like 8 or 10 crazy little alien legs under it that would just move so effortlessly. It was amazing. I don't know. So there was just, that's the kind of thing I miss about Chicago. All the weird little unexpected inspirations that I could just kind of stumble upon on some random afternoon or evening. You know what I mean? All right. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe, okay? Subscribe to the video. All right, bye. Love you.